So I'm quickly jumping on to talk about shamanic states of consciousness and how we perceive beyond the physical and ordinary state of normal awareness or consciousness. So in shamanism, we work with helping spirits. We have helping allies, helping spirits in the other world who oversee and guide our work. Unfortunately, this probably has quite a lot of skepticism, quite a lot of misunderstanding. It can be judged, it can be ridiculed, and at worst, it can even be demonized. So I was working with a client earlier on this week, and I never know what I'm going to do when I get a client up onto a table. It's about entering into a state of neutrality, detachment, and really letting the boundary of the ego dissolve and just holding a sacred space for what comes through. Now, when I started to work with this client who had been in a disease process, so Spirit guided me to work, really focus the healing and the energy on a couple of anatomical things that, one, I wasn't aware of, ribosomes and messenger RNA. So they were really facilitating the healing energy and telling me where in the body this exactly needed to go and to what steps and what processes need to occur. So after that client, my own thirst for understanding, for looking into things, I decided to get onto Google and have a look at ribosomes and, it functioning with the messenger RNA and also with this disease process. And there's lots of emerging medical evidence that suggests that ribosomes, I wrote some of this down actually, about ribosomes and messenger RNA, that there's emerging evidence that suggests that an increase in ribosome biogenesis and mutation of ribosomal proteins are involved with cancer. And there's genetic changes that can happen with these proteins and the proliferation of cancer cells. So I wasn't aware of that. And oftentimes Spirit are giving me information that is beyond my intellect, beyond my understanding. I am often working with things outside the realm of my understanding and comprehension. But when we tap into these altered states of reality, some of these healers, healing spirits, they know so much. They are connected to the infinite intelligence that guides the universe. They are so benevolent and so wise. Just because I can't see from this level of perspective and understanding, they can. And it's that energy that guides this work. And, I think I'm so passionate about trying to get people to understand this concept of shamanism, or the concept of working with helping spirits and helping guides, because the information that does come through is beyond, it's beyond the intellect. Intuition sits higher than the intellect, they say. And there really is an abundant realm of information. Now, that was just from the medical side that I found this data and this information, which backed up how Spirit were working with this client and what they were actually focusing on, from their diagnostic or their, to effect, I won't say a cure, but to effect some kind of healing. Now, there was another aspect of information that I came across in my studies after this client that I thought was really interesting. And it also tapped into what we were focusing on. Now, this is the first time I've come across this information and this knowledge, but it has been said that during trauma, the protein coating around the gene becomes damaged via epigenetic control. So there is an alteration of the genetic code. A ribosome reads the code on the messenger RNA to create required proteins. However, ribosomes can act as a container for frozen moments of trauma. So trauma gets frozen into the ribosome, it gets encoded, in that point of time and in that trauma. So at a intracellular level, ribosomes can act as a physical container for trauma. and it can become stuck, altering that messenger RNA and that biological process within the cell. So if we go back to that first trauma where that originated, which sometimes isn't even with the client itself, sometimes it's in an ancestor, and there's this intergenerational trauma and this pattern that gets repeated. Yeah, so that trauma gets stuck in that genetic, it gets encoded in that genetic material, and it can get passed on intergenerationally, because also with healing, when we heal, we can access those timelines that, we can heal things that were with our ancestors by accessing the present moment, accessing that original trauma, and then bringing a healing force and a healing energy that unravels that and can return or resolve that trauma, and where those cellular structures, I believe, can heal and restore. Yeah, because the body knows how to heal itself given the right input, the right energy, and knowing where to focus. So I just thought that was really interesting, because I didn't realize that the ribosome was also a carrier of that traumatic material, or how that can actually get encoded and then stuck and then passed on intergenerationally. So yeah, it's amazing what you do when you do a little bit of research. So what else did I write down from my studies? By healing the damaged protein coating that caused the gene to become stuck, the ribosomes can release that trauma that was stored in there. I think I've already said that. So yeah, it's just, I think, amazing to kind of see just the validity. I'm often seeing that in my own work, but yeah, the depth, the validity, the wisdom that can come from this unseen realm and guide us and help us heal on our path and see things that even, we're not aware of. And that's what I love about shamanic healing. That's what I love about working with spirit, that omnipotent, omnipresent, all-aware, guiding consciousness that we can tap into and use. Because sometimes not all things can get resolved with mainstream medicine, yeah? And I think having other healing pathways and having other ways to look at things is really, really important. So that was my little share.